You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Infinite diversity.
Live long and prosper, and welcome to Infinite Diversity, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on the BQN Podcast Collective. I'm your host for today, Chrissie, and joining me is my co-host, Thad. Thad, how are you doing today?
I'm feeling a little two-dimensional. I think it was this weird thing I just drank. Other than that, I think I'm all right. How about you?
Okay. If you think it's something you ate, you should probably not try to do anything, and watch out for chronoton poisoning, Stay close to a bathroom, like to say. I'm doing well. I'm feeling a bit extra dimensional.
Oh.
It's like I have more dimensions
then you got
now.
my
I
missing
don't know what
one.
to do
Okay.
with. Perhaps. All right. And also joining us today is Aaron Reynolds, the great mind behind Swear Trek and Effin Birds and a number of other things that I didn't write down. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi. Thanks for inviting me.
It's great to have you on here. We pretty much were like, as soon as Chrissie suggested you for this episode, I said, yes, that's the perfect choice.
Yes. Oh, I'm glad that we can make it work. This is like the one time that I am at home like this entire summer on like this day of the week, and that I specifically had to catch up on Star Trek for this podcast. So like I did the work, people.
We appreciate that. I know that's some tough homework, but understand.
I lived through it.
Yeah. Before we jump into our topic for the day, we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons who make this show possible, particularly our associate producer, Carl Wonders. Listeners, you can hear your name listed as one of our associate producers for a monthly subscription of just $10 at patreon.com/BQN. And with a monthly Patreon subscription of just $5, you can join our meetings of the Hive Mind on the second Saturday of each month. Watch your Patreon messages for details. I just said Patreon weird, but that's okay.
Yeah, I was wondering what Patreon was.
Patreon.
I don't know why that happened. All right.
You said it kind of Canadian.
Like censors.
Yeah, it was kind of like... one of the best things about watching the old 60s Spider-Man cartoon is that all the voices were recorded, here in Canada. And so you get to hear some good Ontario accents, and it's actually some good East Coast accents. But it's really subtle because they're trying to be American, but then they'll say Spider-Man or robot. My favorite is stop the robot.
I like that. Well, it's some Canada does bleed over into Michigan, so I would not be surprised if I have a little Canada sound. Anyway, right. So today we are going to discuss what did they call was Avengers Endgame or something like that? It was the most
ambitious crossover event.
You know what I was getting at.
Yep.
The most ambitious crossover event in Star Trek history, and that is Strange New Worlds. Those old scientists. We have animated characters in the live action, and we, at the end, have live action and animated. And, yeah, we've been waiting for this since Chicago last year, right? That's when they announced it. So, all right. Aaron, what'd you think? You hated it, right? After I got all that build up,
No, I really enjoyed it. I did trick my youngest child into watching it because he's been watching Lower Decks with me, but he has not watched any other Star Trek. And I told him that there was a surprise drop of a new Lower Decks at San Diego Comic-Con, and then I just played it. And so it was like a nice big surprise for him when suddenly, we were in the real world.
Oh, that works out great because it opens like a Lower Decks episode.
Right. Well, that's the thing is it opens so perfectly like a Lower Decks episode. You feel familiar right away. Like it's not like somebody who's not familiar with Lower Decks is making a Lower Decks. It's a perfect Lower Decks for that part of the episode. Yeah. He's 12 to answer that question.
Nice.
Oh, that's perfect for Lower Decks. Yeah. All right. They married it beautifully.
I would have loved Lower Decks when I was 12. I mean, admittedly, I love it when I'm 37, but I would have really loved it when I was 12.
Oh yeah, this show is for little Aaron, absolutely, 100%.
It's the show that combines the Star Trek references with the jokes that you might make when you're 12, but also includes the jokes that you might have heard when you were 12 and not understood, but now you do as an adult.
Yep. I was thinking of it, and I actually had this in my notes to talk about it later, but I'm going to talk about it right now. I really do feel that. Yeah, I feel like Lower Decks is like basically Space Gilmore Girls, because it is incredibly fast-paced dialogue.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, reference after reference after reference after reference. And I love that they managed to just put a little button on that in this episode, when people who are outside of Lower Decks commenting on the way that people inside of Lower Decks talk was, I found that hysterically funny.
Did you notice their references are oddly specific?
The references are oddly specific. What a great line. Yeah.
That's just, yeah.
Right after that awesome past tense reference, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I did have in the notes, we know Mariner was on DS9. How many people know about that? Maybe we'll find out she was one of the people waiting for them to come back.
They reference a bunch of things they shouldn't know about in Lower Decks.
I know. But in that case, we have like a connection that maybe is relevant. All right. That's my headcanon, and I'm sticking to it.
All right.
All right. That was really emphatic. So... Right, so we start out in Lower Decks. We start out on the Cerritos, and to use their phrasing, they're going to go look at the portal, not do portal stuff.
It's one of Boimler's favorite portals.
And then it does do portal stuff. Yeah. I want that list. I'm surprised we didn't get that. The first one is this, and the second one is that. And I love how it's just close enough to The Guardian of Forever, that when I showed this to my mother, she's like, is that the one from the other episode? And I'm like, no, it's a different portal that does basically the same thing, which is exactly what it's supposed to be.
Different portal with the same job. That's right.
And not named... Oh, shoot.
Carl.
When we met, Carl the portal. Okay.
But also, Guardian Forever wouldn't
Carl
work
Guardian.
because they don't know it exists yet in the Strange New Worlds time.
That's true. I'm just saying. For somebody who watched the original series first time around,
it works
my
as
mom
the
thought
thematic sort of thing.
That was funny.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But they're also putting a button on that because they're talking about how it's his favorite, like he has a list of favorite portals. Like that's like it's yeah.
Does not surprise me in the slightest that Boimler has a list of favorite portals.
No, it's 100%.
Nor that there are more than one.
Well, I think it's very much like the favorite radiations to have scanned. Like that's that was great.
Yeah. Right. So we have all of this, and they're talking about the portal, and we actually do get a little bit of serious here because, again, we have Tendi saying, not all Orions are pirates, and it's a little more emphatic than when she had been said earlier, like. What was the line from the first season?
For your information, some Orions haven't been pirates for at least 5 years.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go. And at least 5 years, I guess, does include 120 prior. Because at least, But yeah, I like that. I think that was good.
Right. And pointing out somebody had to build the starships. That was a pretty good justification for not all Orions are pirates.
Yeah, and I think... to me, that kind of addresses the issues around, like, oh, this species has to be monolithic completely, and it's, Klingons are only warriors, and Vulcans are only logical, and it's like, no, there's variation,
I like any show that, tries to dive into that and break that up a little bit. Like, I loved Next Generation really going in on Klingon mythology and Klingon backstories, and like, if what we're going to get here is a bunch of Orion stuff, I'm happy to get it. Yeah. I even liked Enterprise's like Vulcan stuff, like oh, here's guess what? Some Vulcans can be dicks. Like I really like that about Enterprise.
For a second, I thought you were going to say you liked Enterprise's Orion stuff, and I'm like, really?
Oh no, come on. I'm a reasonable person. I think I like Enterprise more than a lot of people, but I'm reasonable. I'm a reasonable person.
That's good. That's good. So, right. So then, Boimler's got to jump up on the portal and take a picture, and that sets the portal off. And we have that beautiful transition. And then you guys are so real. You're very realistic. Was just the perfect line to put there. Listeners, I have to say, you're not used to us like quoting right directly from the episode so much, but I have literally watched this episode, I think, 6 times.
I've seen it 7
since
times.
It came out. So, well, there you go. So, and admittedly, 2 of those I had it running in the background while I was cleaning, but still, I mean, it's there. So yeah, so this is it's good. And then, so Boimler gets sucked in. He does the fantastic hit your head on the sand that people
also
seem to
when
do in
he's
Star
getting
Trek.
sucked in, he yells "Remember Me," because it's reminiscent of the scene from the episode "Remember Me" when Crusher is getting pulled in by the static warp bubble.
Yes, I forgot to write that down, and I didn't even catch that. I know I didn't catch that on the first watch. I don't remember when I did.
I never caught it myself. I mean, I heard the line and I thought, oh, that's funny. I didn't realize realize the reference though until your Killerbrand on Twitter tweeted about it or X'd about it or whatever they're calling it these days.
I'm calling it tweeted. So then we go into the opening sequence and animated. I was not expecting this. What do you guys think about this?
No, I wasn't expecting. I was so excited though.
I sort of felt like that would be the right thing to do. Like I was like, if I was making this, I would 100% take the regular opening credits and animate them. And I was so happy that they did because it was adorable. You know, as soon as those first little lights looked a little different, I was like, oh, they did it. Oh, they did it. And then I loved having like a couple little nods to the nacelle monster. Like I was like, yeah, that's exactly what you need. You need the nacelle monster on the Enterprise. And I think that's a good little signifier that this episode is not going to be very serious, you know?
Yes. Do we have a name for the nacelle monster?
I don't think so. I think it's just the nacelle monster.
Okay.
It's just
because I was looking
Mike.
and I ended up just writing space animal. Like
Space
Yeah,
Animal.
I'll send an X to Mike McMahon and ask.
Yeah, ask him. Yeah.
That's a good idea. He'll probably respond. Well, yeah, no, he can respond to
Actually,
that.
I think they are still technically called tweets, although the supposed info is that it's going to change to just post.
I thought he said they were going to be called X's.
Sure.
Anyways, who
No,
cares?
that was
he's just
that was a parody.
Oh, okay. I was like, was that a 2 a.m. stoned Elon tweet? Because those are also, where the product announcements are bullshit. But like, all right.
Yeah.
Let's not
that
talk
was a parody
about
that was
Twitter
saying that, but
anymore.
yeah.
No more Twitter talk.
Yeah,
Let's
sorry.
just like
Fair.
let it die. Let it die.
Yes. Right. So yeah, I think it took me until the third scene of the lights coming out, and I was like, that doesn't look right. I had never even thought that they might do that. And then, of course, it's an obvious thing to have done that if they hadn't done it, I probably would have asked why. So, but that was fantastic. We also got the koala at the end.
Yes.
Yep.
Mixed in,
koala.
so that's cool.
Why is he smiling? What does he know?
So then we go to Boimler on the Enterprise with nothing after the dash. And, he does what I think we all would do in this circumstance, which is say, computer end program.
Yep.
Yeah, but he touches Pike's chest to see if he was real. If it was me, I would touch the hair.
Yeah.
Neither one makes sense because if it's a holograph done properly, particularly going into the past, so Boimler's familiar with good holography.
Oh, that's a good point, yeah.
Right, they should feel it. I was thinking about it at the time, and I was like, you know what? I don't care. I like this joke.
Exactly. It's not about is it a holograph at that point? It's the, am I?
Yeah, does he get
And
to
I really like. Yeah. He's like, his initial thought is, he can't let them know he came from the past. So he's like, oh yes, that's a perfectly normal number of digits to have at a star date.
Yes. Yeah, and I like that they were like, it's okay, we know you're from the future, so you can stop whatever this is you're trying to do. I really like that part, and I also like that because it short circuits what a lazier version of this episode could have been, which is him trying to like pass himself off as being from that time. And I'm glad that they didn't do that because there's only. Yeah. I think there's 3 jokes in there, and they already did all 3 of them. So like, let's just move on from it. And the show does that a lot. Like this episode finds something and it mines it for its 3 jokes, and then just moves away. And I'm very appreciative of that. I think my favorite part of the sick bay. My favorite part in sick bay was that. Did you guys watch the live action Flash television series?
No, I did not.
So there's one. For a while it was good. No, it's okay. For a while it was good, and when it was good, the very best episode was an episode where something happened, something dimensions portal something, and Barry Allen, the Flash, meets Supergirl. And they cross over those 2 shows, and then they spend much of the episode just being very excited to meet each other. And it's like heartwarming and delightful, and it's 2 great performances of people who are just like, you're from another planet? Yeah. You can run really fast? Yeah. And it's just really and I felt that kind of vibe here with people excited to meet somebody from the future, and Boimler being so excited to meet iconic heroes of the past that he only knows from books or whatever else. That vibe was really good, and that that sense of fun and that sense of delight. And I like seeing people enjoy things on television. That's that's one of my favorite things is watching other people enjoy things. I like people who like stuff, and so having an episode where people are excited to meet each other is it's great.
Yeah, I think having time travel within Starfleet and having it be immediately recognized and everybody's on the same page, that makes it a lot easier than going looking for whales or something and trying to pretend you're from that era. It's very straightforward. Okay, you can't tell us anything and we don't want to know. We want to know, but speaking of actually Voyage Home, I have been picking up on music more this season. I don't know why, but it seemed like there were a lot of touches of Voyage Home and of Search for Spock in the undertones of the music, and maybe I'm hearing things.
I don't disbelieve you, but I did not notice that at all.
Yeah, I would have to watch it again and listen for it, but that would be... I wouldn't be surprised if that happened, because that sounds exactly the kind of hat tip they would want to do. Yeah, no, it would make sense, because Nami Malumad, who does the music, has a history of referencing other Star Trek music in her music, so that makes sense. Right. And Voyage Home is that great what's his name? Leonard Rosenman? Leonard Rosenman? Yeah, it's a really great upbeat kind of fun score. So, exactly. Yeah. And the Chekhov hospital music, that's great stuff. Mm-hmm.
So we go through the whole thing in sick bay. Of course, he's scared of Una for some reason. What'd you think about that? And the fact that Pike was just so enamored with the fact that this guy was so much of a fan of his. Because there was a little bit of, and I wouldn't call it fanboying back, but it was definitely going with it.
Well, I mean, I said that Pike was getting more and more frustrated throughout the episode, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, I like that. Yes. Basically, he liked that this guy really liked him, and he hated that this guy was such a pain in his butt, and was just but at the same time he kept diffusing it with the reveal of the Halloween costume, which was really beautiful. You can't get sent to the brig by the guy dressed up as for Halloween. And I loved Anson Mount's performance in that moment where he starts saying something and then he stops and he's like, wait, it was really nice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, performance-wise,
they all did a great job.
Yeah. I would say the thing I was surprised most by was Jack Quaid physically being Boimler, because Boimler is a cartoon character, right? And to give him his own, to do the noodle arms, like, first of all, that's got to be physically difficult. Also, the guy never has to do that, right? Like, he's in a booth and he's recording, and he's not doing the funny walk, right? Or especially the funny fast walk, which I was so happy, made its appearance in this episode.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah, and so I imagine he had to watch like his own performance, quote unquote, in a bunch of cartoons and learn how to, physically be himself. And I thought that both he and Tawny Newsome were terrific at that, because they just showed up and they just were their characters, which was really great.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I think he said on the Ready Room that he went back and watched a bunch of them just to make sure he was embodying it correctly.
The little
also,
jump when he screams.
Funny thing to say.
You really notice how tall Jack Quaid is in this episode, because he's a lot taller than Boimler.
Yeah. I was like, are they going to do some like Hobbit stuff, where they put him a little further back, do a little forced perspective? But now they just dealt with him being that tall. Yeah, they just dealt with him being tall.
They just said he's that tall. I mean, we don't technically know how tall Ransom or Shax are, so...
Yes, but if Boimler on Lower Decks is the same height as Boimler on Strange New Worlds, that means that, like, Ransom is, like, 7.5 feet tall.
I mean, that's possible.
Okay, that's true, yeah.
Can you see Jerry O'Connell showing up in a subsequent, like, crossover episode with huge platform boots on? So at the Webby Awards, I ran into Mary Chieffo, who played the Klingon Empress on Discovery, and she is so terrifyingly tall. And then on top of that, she was wearing platform boots, so she was about 7 feet tall. And I'm a tall person; I'm 6'2", and it was almost like she was. I don't want to say scary, but like it was like there's something really intimidating about talking to someone who's 7 feet tall, And so, anyways.
And she looks like the kind of person that totally wouldn't want to beat me up, but totally could if she had to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You wouldn't want to, but if you gave her a reason.
Right.
If we were going to go into a dark alley in New York, I would rather have her on my end of the dark alley than at the other end of the dark alley.
Oh, yeah.
No question there. No question. All right. And then, so La'an is taking him... Well, we don't really know where she's supposed to be taking him, but they end up in the conference room, or he ends up in the conference room. We get a sad little moment with La'an.
Yeah.
Which was rather
where
poignant.
She adds an extra rule to time travel.
Yeah.
Not a bad one, though.
No, not a terrible idea.
Kirk could have used that advice.
I was just thinking.
A few times over. But one in particular, yeah. Yeah. Right, and then he Rikers onto the saddle.
That was ad-libbed, apparently.
Which
is
sounds a lot dirtier than it actually was.
Yes.
Saying it out loud.
What's wild about that scene is that was ad-libbed, and of course, because Frakes is directing this episode, Frakes was in the room when he just decides to walk up to the saddle and go, Riker.
That's beautiful. I would like to have seen that happen. I would have liked to have seen the look on Frakes' face. I hope somebody was filming that.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get...
I would like to think that they had to do a second take because Frakes probably burst out laughing.
Oh, yes. I like that. Yes. I like that a lot. And he talks to Uhura, and Uhura's a lot more stiff than he thought. And then they go down to the planet, and he's having a freak out, staring at them. And he thinks he breaks Spock. Which is... I guess, I get it, right? I mean, if you saw Spock laugh...
Or you saw... You honestly, you see anyone do that creepy-ass smile... You think something's wrong.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that was handled so beautifully. Like the way that was shot, just to emphasize the creepiness of it and Boimler's point of view of it. And it just sort of like zooms in on Ethan Peck's mouth a little bit. Like, oh, it was really, really beautifully put together.
And the exploding tricorder.
Explodes,
that was
you
the thing.
say?
That,
Explodes.
nice
Exactly.
little callback to Trials and Tribulations with that, I think. And the
classic
23rd
century design, yes.
Yes, because then Spock goes, industrial design. Right, and then the Orions show up. They don't know that they're Orions, but then he confirms they're Orions.
I enjoy it. Pike is like, are there Orion science vessels?
Right.
Yeah, because what else? And he says it. It's like, oh, that's not surprising given the time period, but...
Right. But I really did like that line of dialogue that's like, well, where I come from, it's considered bad form to assume that all Orions are pirates, or considered offensive to assume that all Orions are pirates. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of just the kind of like gentle future chiding that this show needs.
Yes, it's you're saying to a great grandparent or something, like we don't say that anymore.
Yes, I've
about
had
any
those
number of
conversations before.
Yeah, I've had those conversations with students who are younger than I am, but that's a different issue entirely. Well, I should say once I have. But anyway, so why did the Orions take the portal?
You know what? I didn't think about that. I didn't think about like the why of it until I saw your notes for this episode, and it says Orions take the portal. Why? I was like, wow, they did take it for a narratively convenient reason. And I mean, the reason that they took it is so that we can have a crisis of conscience for Boimler, and and a reason to like treat them nicely at the end, and give them something they want, which is recognition of their ability as scientists who discover things, and so I mean, yeah, that's why they took it, because of that. I mean, it would be easier if they were Ferengis. If they were Ferengis, we'd just be like, oh yeah, Ferengis just take shit, like that's what they do. But like, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about it until I think the second rewatch.
Yeah, it's because the plot called for it.
Well, yeah, I realize that. But you could also, I mean, you can work it in, they're half pirates, they're half scientists. Maybe they were going to experiment with it and sell it or something, There's any number of reasons one could come up with, but...
So it's the only way you can fund Orion science is through small acts of piracy. Who knows? I mean,
I like that.
Yeah.
It's like selling the dinosaur bones in order to be able to take some back to the Natural History Museum.
That's right. Maybe they're Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, this portal belongs in a museum.
I don't know if
belongs in
better
a museum.
Or worse, yeah. Right. So then everything goes to hell there. And then we run into Boimler's in the bar, and Chapel and Ortegas are going to come in and bust his chops and find out if he's had temporal chronoton sickness, chronoton poisoning yet, and all of that.
I love this scene.
And that was the scene that I immediately went, oh, I like Boimler best when he's bouncing off of somebody else. And it was, it was that right there started reminding me that Boimler is the greatest character when Mariner is there. Like, I think that the two of them are such great creations because of how they interact with each other and bounce off of each other. And without somebody there busting Boimler's chops to get those reactions, he's a little less fun, and so I was like, oh, right, this is Boimler I like. This is what I like.
At one point, and I don't remember what, at one point as Boimler's talking to them, it's before Mariner shows up, and I was like, oh, you know what, he is really a smart Starfleet officer. He knows things. And then I was like, you know that he knows things. It's just that Mariner's always saying he's stupid. It makes you think that he doesn't. And it's just because he was serious. He was among serious people, and so that's how he was functioning. And it was just kind of weird. And it was kind of weird. Pike's birthday is a holiday in the future.
That's weird.
Love that. No?
I don't know.
I mean,
so you go,
I mean, we know Pike's future from, the menagerie, etc. And so, honoring, their fallen, captain in that way doesn't surprise me. And I think it's a little more generous or a little more humane, since he did survive the accident, but it was a horrible accident, to have the celebration of him on his birthday and not, for instance, the day that he had the horrible accident.
Well, that's fair, yeah. I don't know, it just seems a little odd that Pike's birthday would be a holiday and not like, Kirk's birthday or something.
I mean, do we know that Kirk's birthday is a holiday? Yeah,
that's
maybe
true.
so. I mean, there's Captain Picard Day, so maybe.
Yeah, but I think Captain Picard Day only applies on the ship that Picard is captain of at any given time.
Maybe.
And really only if there's children.
Or Boimler.
Speaking of narratively convenient celebrations, the Captain Picard Day is definitely one of those.
Yeah. Oh, whoever came up with that was fantastic. Maybe it's one of those holidays that's like it's only there like if you know about it, like National Ice Cream Day or something.
Sure.
Yeah, like like National Talk Like a Pirate Day and stuff like that.
Right. Where you don't. It's not like a day off from work. It's just a day that you recognize that it was Pike's birthday. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know what it is? Here's my Catholic upbringing coming up. It's a saint's holiday.
Oh yeah.
Every day there's a saint's day. Yeah. So it's the Starfleet captain's calendar of.
Oh, it's the dead Starfleet or injured Starfleet captains like saints days. Oh, who else? Maybe they had one for Spock in between Star Trek 2 and 3.
Did they get rid of it then when he came back?
That's a good question. I would like to think that they kept it. I'm going to write some fan fiction right now. Let me make a note here.
There you go.
Spock holiday.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write a short story from the perspective of the people who arrange the Starfleet holiday calendar, having a meeting about what to do now that this guy is no longer dead.
You know what that is? Because you don't even have to get into having had the holiday. They happen to be making the calendar when they find out that he's dead. And then just before they're ready to, then they have to metaphorically print it, they have to fix it.
Right. So they're like, guys, we rushed this onto the calendar because he was so important. So are we sure that he's alive again? Yeah. Are we sure? Is he going to stay alive? Is this temporary? Should we keep it there just in case? I'd love to hear this debate. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Oh, that's good. Right. So it's Pike's birthday. And then we have creepy Spock again. It is creepy in this episode because he plays it up more. It's definitely
I saw a wonderful bit of Frakes on the set directing where he's just telling everybody to really go for it, and to play it really, really huge. And you can see that in Ethan Peck's Spock, particularly where he says, "Do you feel lucky?" and then gives that smile. It's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. At that point, he knows that he's bothering Boimler, so it's just
and he's leaning into it.
Which, narratively speaking, you can work that into how he did that to McCoy, because he knew how to needle him, and it's just So then he goes running after Chapel because he thinks he's broken Spock, and Chapel is I think Chapel doesn't really know what to do with this.
Well, she's understandably a little upset to learn that she doesn't get to stay with Spock.
Yeah.
Right.
But at the same time, she's saying, "I don't know if don't know if I wanted that."
Right.
Yeah. Sorry,
right. And with the way that the previous episode had ended, with their relationship or whatever it is that they have suddenly becoming a thing. I was like, oh, how are they gonna reconcile this with the future of Star Trek? Now, here's the thing, I don't I don't actually care that much about reconciling things between Star Treks. Like, you just make it good, and I'm happy, And if you want in the J.J. Abrams verse to have a relationship between Spock and Uhura, that's great. Because you know what?
Yeah.
It's really, they mine it for a lot of great comedy when the two are angry at each other and stuff like that. So I'm super into it.
Girlfriend a tracking device?
Yeah, exactly. That part is so good. Oh, this is what it's like when you're fighting. I really like that. But I did sort of, like, I was curious because I think this show is a little more reverent than that. I think that the Abrams movies gave themselves they gave themselves a get out of jail free card to break the timeline, which was great, because then they got to do whatever they wanted, which is, I think most of the time narratively more interesting than trying to fit inside a box of what's already come. And I do think that this show is a little more reverent of that, and I love that the way that they're handling Pike having knowledge of his own future. Like, I think that is one of the most resonant parts of Strange New Worlds. And so I did wonder what's going to happen with this, and to have it right away, like in the very next episode, have someone from the future accidentally let it slip that their relationship is not going to last. Like, that was kind of a gut punch. Like, that was a real, like, I didn't expect that from this episode. And I really I feel like this is a lot like the hijinks episode that we got this season in Charades, that had a really good emotional beat at the end of it, and I appreciate that this show is committing to giving us those emotional beats, even when it's giving us the lightest and frothiest of episodes.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel out of place in both directions. The humor doesn't feel out of place, and the serious doesn't either.
And honestly, that's what I love so much about this episode, is that it's still, for all that this has filled with Lower Deck stuff, it still feels very much grounded as a Strange New Worlds episode.
Right, and it moved forwards the emotional arcs on Strange New Worlds, which I like very much. That this show is not that it has a story of the week and then an overall, like, character development arc. Like, I'm happy to get back to that kind of television, because that's what I really enjoyed about. That's what I really enjoyed about the later seasons of Star Trek: The Next Generation, is that it would give us story of the week, but there would be lasting consequences, and we would, call back to things, and we would talk about things. And I think that, like, this is in a way that I when Voyager came out, and Voyager was like this attempt after Deep Space Nine to get back to, like, the Star Trek that you expect. I like Voyager. I like Voyager fine, and it is the Star Trek that you expect. But I like that this version of trying to give us the Star Trek that we expect is great and inventive and interesting and fun and different, and yet is also trying very hard to give us the Star Trek that we expect.
Yeah. And there's a consciousness of the continuity, which is, we don't get that until the later seasons of Next Gen, where it's all of a sudden like, oh, this is going to be a thing. This has become a thing, and people are actually paying it. I mean, people were paying attention before, but where they're looking at actually making sure that the continuity is good, is right. So
right. Well, I remembered as a teenager having my mind blown by the episode that just spends time with Picard in the vineyard. Because, like, family, it was like, right, because they're showing that there really were consequences to those things that just happened, and we're going to continue to deal with them. And I was like, wow. I mean, this is, it's not. I expected the reset button at the end of every episode. Like.
Yeah, like Uhura forgetting how to read and then just going back to her post the next episode.
Oh dear.
But that does explain why she knows how to understand Klingon in Strange New Worlds, but doesn't by Star Trek VI.
Good. There we go.
Sure.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah. I hate that scene. I know. I love Undiscovered Country.
Oh, that scene is so bad, because even if they didn't know Klingon, they wouldn't be using books.
Right. They'd say it to the computer, they'd have the computer say it back, and then they'd say it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I think they just wanted to make them look inept, which I really don't like.
Yes.
Yes. So, and the other thing that I caught, again, not on the first watch, he says he's read every book about Spock. There's no mention of Michael. It's his relationship with his father, his relationship with his mother, and, yeah.
That means the plan worked perfectly.
Yeah. Just it's there. Golden Age of Exploration, yep. That did feel a little... How did you feel about that with him getting into that Golden Age of Exploration thing in the bar? I know I'm bouncing back a little bit, but... Did that...
I think that played into my, enjoying where he was, and I think that part of that was he needed to, and he talks about it later when he had unrealistic expectations that he put on all of these people that he met.
Yeah.
Because, these are people who are here doing the thing. They don't know how history's going to regard them, and so he's kind of there to be history, sort of letting it slip how history regards them, and I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my historian brain went to colonialism for some reason, and so I was like, that doesn't sound so good.
Well, that's our so-called golden age of exploration, right. Yeah, right. But in space, it's not necessarily the same problem.
It's actual exploration, yeah.
Right. In theory, the colonies the Federation has are done that are not at the expense of existing people at the location.
In theory. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, it's all made up. It's a TV show.
Well, yeah.
There is that too.
Yeah.
Historian brain is hard to put aside, so sometimes I apply it to things that it probably shouldn't. But yeah.
One of my favorite podcasts I ever heard was a priest who had done a scholarly study of canon, of the concept of canon as it pertained to biblical study, and then having a conversation with a bunch of people who were super into Doctor Who, and trying to explain what they consider canon is not what they would call canon when discussing biblical things, because a lot of biblical canon is how you deal with inconsistencies and what they say about you or your own journey or whatever else. Whereas, what the fan canon, seems to mean is that this is the one truth.
Right. Yeah. That actually sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
It really was. I wish I could remember what that... It was some kind of Star Trek podcast, and it was some kind of Doctor Who podcast, and I loved it, and I should go listen to it again.
There are a bunch of people on the website formerly known as Twitter who could benefit from that information.
Yes.
And a bunch of people who are running in American government and elsewhere that could benefit from that information, too.
Oh, that too, yes.
Yeah. So then we have the beautiful scene of Boimler says he can track them and just nobody look. And I think that is maybe the most absurd of the whole episode. I thought it was fantastic.
I love that Una says, "Oh, come on, we can't just not look," and Pike is like, "No, whatever."
Yeah, I meant absurd in the literary way, not didn't I like it. Yeah. And I thought they did a nice job with him being all stuck in wires. That was very Boimler. So they're gonna trade the portal for the grain. The grain is for Setlik 2. I kind of thought that after they didn't hit the grain, they were going to take him to Setlik 3, and that was going to set up... Or Setlik 3.
That would be a problem in 100 years.
Right, but they didn't go there. So. But what happened to Setlik 2 and
which ones are Setlik 2 and Setlik 3?
Oh, well, Setlik 3 is...
Setlik 3... Yeah,
it was a massacre during the Cardassian Wars. It's the one that O'Brien was on, saw in The Wounded with his former captain, yeah. So I thought that was
a very serious reference.
Well, yeah, and I thought they were throwing in something kind of dark with that, and then I'm like, well, I didn't hear it right, but it didn't go there anyway. So So they trade the portal for the grain. So even science Orions, do need to have a bit of cash. We can't get grants or anything like that. And they get it all set up, and Mariner busts through. That was beautifully done. That was beautifully done.
That was 100% what Mariner would do in that situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was a nice split with what had happened with Boimler, because Boimler, of course, sees this and he faints. And she's like, oh no, tell me everything, and where's the bar? So it's very, very her.
Yeah. Is Uhura here?
I mean, you guys
you're
are
all
great.
but is Uhura here? Yeah. Yeah.
And they have the flippy thing, yeah.
I did like the part about where at the beginning when Pike and Una are looking at Boimler's communicator. Yes. They're like, yeah, you just click the comm badge, and they're like, yeah, but flipping it open's the coolest part.
I think that I don't know how I remember this, but I feel like I remember people talking about that in the 80s when Next Gen started. I shouldn't remember that, but I do. Or maybe I just am extrapolating it. But so then we have the thing about the very specific references.
Yep.
Mariners.
And the rate at which they speak.
Yes.
And honestly, one of my favorite lines in the whole episode is right about now when Mariner turns to Boimler and says, I'm going to keep things totally profesh, but I was not prepared for how hot Spock is.
Yes!
That was beautiful.
And then she kept calling him Hot Spock. That's like, that was really good.
Yeah. Yes, and poor Boimler.
Also, that was also apparently mad-libbed. Or not ad-libbed.
Really? Hot Spock agrees with me? Was ad-lib?
Oh,
no, the whole Hot Spock thing was ad-libbed.
Oh, man.
That's good.
That's beautiful. I love it.
Tawny Newsom skirted the lines of the strike to make a very vague post responding to a bunch of questions she received. And one of them was talking about that was ad-lib, but she did ask Ethan Peck's permission before she said it.
Oh, that's
cool.
nice.
Oh, and see, that's why she's going to be a writer for the Academy show, because she's got that.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a under the radar reference to how Nimoy became a sex symbol when they expected Shatner to. So there you go. See, there I go giving it.
I just thought it was a
relevance
commentary on how hot Ethan Peck is.
Well, obviously, I mean, there's always that. So, right. So then Mariner finagles her way to work with Uhura, insists that Boimler work with Spock. Boimler then is explaining why he doesn't want to work with Spock.
You didn't ask him about his Sailot, did you?
Can always get me with an animated series reference.
Oh yeah. Right, and then so then Una runs into them in the hallway, and Boimler runs off with his Section 31 walk with the thing.
Yep.
I feel like that's probably good exercise, but
that's why they do it in Section 31.
Right. So the term pinup, as in a pinup poster, doesn't exist in the 24th century. That was
but
beautiful.
Does in the 23rd, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really great.
It's a poster that's pinned up. I don't know
pinned up. Are we talking about the same thing?
Yeah, because you can the way she played that, you could see the process in her head of like, okay, I don't think there are any pinup posters of me in the world. At what point in the future am I going to pose for a pinup poster? Or is this something that's like, did somebody put my head on somebody's body? And you know exactly what she thinks it looks like. Beautiful. Beautiful.
I also loved, it was at the scene where as she's walking away, she says, I don't want to know twice.
Yes.
And the second time is just like this super emphatic,
I don't want to know.
Like, that was really like, I think that's the most like dialed up that we've seen Una in this show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was more excited about this than she was about possibly going to prison for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, and when you're in prison for the rest of your life, you don't have pinup posters of yourself around that you know of.
No, but you might have a pinup poster that you dig your way out of behind.
Well, there is that.
I mean, I said that sentence all weird, but you know what I meant.
No, I got it.
No, that made perfect sense. Prison, knowing that there's pictures of me that are supposed to be nude or semi-nude. I don't know. That's, yeah. Right.
And you know what? If someone wants to have a poster of me in their bedroom, I question their taste, but go for it.
No, that would not be good. But, you know, in my profession, that would be more problematic than yours. So,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Anyway.
I've embraced unprofessionalism in my career. It's truly the best. It's the best thing that I could possibly have ever done. And now I don't have to worry about anything. Because guess what? I write the comic strip that has swear words in it. It's all good, you know. What else could I possibly do? I was going to say that I really enjoyed, because I'm just looking at the list of things we have to talk about here. I really enjoyed Mariner being a good, bad influence. Like, I liked that scene a lot. I liked trying to get, I liked addressing the ongoing Uhura plot of the season with Mariner, trying to get her to come out of her shell a little bit and relax a little bit. And also that, you know, sort of cracking this mystery that they've been banging their heads against for part of the story. And then I absolutely loved that having cracked the mystery, it has absolutely doesn't help at all. It doesn't help even the littlest bit. And I think it is my absolutely favorite gag of the entire episode, that when they finally translate the text, it says, "This is a time portal."
That was, I mean, there is not a more lower decks bit than that. Of this is something that appears to be super important, and then they figure it out, and it's meaningless, or it's something they already know.
Right, and it says this is a time portal.
That's just beautiful.
Yep.
And the idea that Dom Jot is something that all Nausicaans are bad at, and that's, I mean, just.
Yes, I laughed really hard.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, yes, I love the idea of a good bad influence. Everyone needs that in their lives. You need somebody who's just going to push you out of your comfort zone enough, and recognizes when you need it. Not to be all serious, but you do need that. Maybe not give you those.
And I love that it's Ortegas who recognizes it. I think Ortegas recognizing it is the right character to do it, and it's the right person to appreciate it. You know, and like yeah.
Well, because she, I think, is a bit of that for people as well. She's a good bad influence.
Yeah.
The line, oh my God, when Uhura says you're a genius, or is that what she says? And then she says, "Yes, I am. Why?"
Yes.
That was dead on. I just that was beautiful. Yes. Right. So then they figure out it's ancient Nausicaan. It's a time portal. Right. He talks to Pelia. I love how she calls him one of the kids, and he says, "And I'm a man."
Yeah.
Well, when you're as old as Pelia, everybody's a kid.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I find it kind of hilarious and wild that Carol Kane is on a Star Trek.
I know.
It's so wonderful. I just...
Right.
And it's perfect. And on top of that, she was not a fan. I say was. She may not still be. But, you know, apparently she had not seen any or only seen a few episodes in her whole life. So she was going into it completely blind, as it were. Unlike a lot of the people who come in now.
Which is... Right. Like, it's hard to... Like, it's had such a huge cultural impact that I think it would be very hard to be the person who has not seen any Star Trek unless you also avoid lots of other media as well. Which
may very well be the case. I don't know. But...
Yeah. I think that the episode I liked most with her was when they went back in time, when La'an went back in time and they found, like, her Department of Antiquities, which was a really great gag. And I think that's the best thing you can do with a nearly immortal character. It's just like, oh yeah, let's go back, you know, in history 1,000 years and find the same character and talk to them then.
Yes, in very random places, and have them be a very different person in a lot of ways, because of course you would be.
TNG did it with Guinan.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Guinan.
Oh, Pelia and Guinan are on Earth at the same time.
That's true. They are.
Oh no. There's that's a podcast series I want to listen to.
Yeah, I want that novel or short track or whatever. I want a long short track.
That can be the next made for streaming movie after they do Section 31.
Ooh, yeah, for sure.
Is a Pelia Guinan movie?
Yeah.
Oh man,
yes.
Guinan Adventure, maybe.
If it was like Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew, you know?
Yeah.
You need to get them together and Rios and the Vulcan, whose name is escaping me. Mistral. I almost just called him Mescal,
yeah.
like the wine.
Oh, yes. Get them
So
all
have that-
involved here.
Oh,
yes.
yeah. Okay. And
It's like they have a support group for people who are stranded in the past.
there's the framing piece. Oh,
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you feel like a man out of time? That's what the classified ad says that gets them all together.
Yes. Okay. I love it. Right. So Boimler gets inspired because Pelia tells him about the person she used to know who wanted to be a hero and then just pretended to be a hero until he became one. Did either of you Google that line or know where it came from?
No, where's that from?
I did, but now I've forgotten.
Cary Grant.
That's it.
Oh.
I looked it up and I was like, I know that's from something. And given what we have heard about Pelia, I was expecting it to be from some, like, great politician, military leader, Alexander the Great or something like. I knew it wasn't Alexander the Great because he never thought of himself as anything but great. But I was surprised. Cary Grant. I'm like, that's cool. So, so
now obviously in our Guinan Pelia team up, Cary Grant has to be a supporting character.
Yes, definitely.
Perfect.
Yeah, we could do it over a long period of time. Yeah. And I love how they have just a moment of bonding over the warp core. Because the first thing we learn about Boimler is how much he loves the warp core, and it's just So then he decides he's going to try to live his best life in the past that he can. And for some reason, Mariner's just hanging out in a shuttle. Because that's what you do, I guess. I don't really get the...
Well, I think the implication was that they had the same idea.
Yeah.
That they were both going to,
Yeah. I don't know. It
do something.
On first watch of it, it didn't seem like... It seemed like she was just there. But yeah, I think you're probably right about that. For me, anyway. And then, of course, it's because Uhura overworks that they are found out. Which is a beautiful connection. Good thing Uhura monitors all comms traffic. Like, also not good that anybody's monitoring all of the comms traffic. But again, this is... we've had this conversation many times about how the Enterprise always has to be listening if you're going to have a voice-activated computer, so...
It's true.
Yeah. Cause and effect. When Data's talking about what's on the computer recording, and he goes through the list of like, okay, there's so many people that are, we have so many people that are at their stations, so many people that are asleep, and then there's 4 couples who are having romantic encounters or something to that effect, and you go, oh god, the computer knows that, and then you think about people with the speakers, the Google speakers and the Amazon speakers and the hello wiretap, which it wasn't until those became a thing that I thought it was creepy that they knew that in that episode. It was just kind of like a
right. Did you see the movie Kimmy?
No, never heard of it.
Oh, Steven Soderbergh movie for done directly for HBO Max or whatever it is now for you guys. That is about, it's essentially Rear Window, but it's a person who has a hard time going outside, and is a person who monitors the failed inquiries to a speaker, like an Alexa style speaker, and then writes down the reports and the training to help improve the model. Who hears a murder?
Ooh, that does sound interesting.
Yeah, it's terrific. It's really terrific. It's like it's David Cope who wrote like the the film adaptation of Jurassic Park and the first Mission Impossible and lots of great stuff. And Steven Soderbergh directed it, and it's really great.
That does sound good. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's also a beautiful 90 minutes. Doesn't spend a single second that it doesn't need to. It respects your time.
That's good. Unlike this podcast.
Yes.
Oh.
Ouch.
Sorry.
Digressions.
No, yes.
That's all right.
Our listeners are used to that. Right, so...
And if they're not, then they're probably not our listeners
No,
anymore.
not anymore. No. This... when originally we started this show, way back when it was The Line, it was supposed to be an hour. And then
Every once in a while, we get like a 45-minute
yeah, just randomly. So, they get hauled in front of Pike, who's cooking. Always cooking. Which I kind of love, but also feel like he must delegate a lot of other things that captains would normally do. Which is maybe healthy. We find out that Boimler dressed as Pike for Halloween. When do you think that happened? In his life?
I would see. Here's the thing: is I'm immediately like, oh, as a child, and then I was like, no, as an adult.
That's where I went to, because
he did it at a 10 forward party or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Because that's how Mariner knows he contoured the jawline.
And how it was a process.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Because otherwise, it would just be like, oh yeah, I've heard about that.
Last year at San Diego Comic-Con, I went to the, I got invited to the Star Trek party at 10 Forward.
Oh,
and
nice.
I knew that Anson Mount would be there. And so I spent a lot of time making my hair as tall as I possibly could. Because I was like, if I'm going to meet Anson Mount, I got to have a pompadour like crazy. I got to make this, my gray hair got to be tall as hell. So imagine what you're seeing right now on this Zoom call. Like, another this much taller. I did it. I thought I nailed it. I thought I really nailed it.
Did he say anything? Did he notice?
He was nice. He's not a fan of Swear Trek, which is fine.
Okay. Well, I guess I can see that.
Did he know about Swear Trek and just doesn't like it?
That's
or
kind of terrifyingly, everyone is aware of it that I've ever spoken to who's involved in Star Trek, and they either they fall into two camps. They're into it or they're not into it, and the not into it are almost always almost apologetic about it. To hear that it does not surprise me in the least that Doug Jones does not find Swear Trek funny. It doesn't seem like it would be his thing, right? Just from his whole everything you see where he talks about. Yeah, he's really
too innocent
genteel
for
and
this
nice.
world
I'm
for
like,
that.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I specifically made the Swear Trek comic where Saru is in the elevator complaining that he does not understand why people think that Swear Trek is funny. That's fine, and it doesn't bother me because humor is not universal. I would hate to make someone upset at it, or that somebody felt I was doing something bad or untoward or inappropriate or whatever else. And I think the only person who thinks that is William Shatner, and I don't care.
That's what I think about that.
Oh, that's right. He blocked you.
He did in fact block me.
Oh yeah, that's a badge of
I
honor,
was about
honestly.
to say, you'd be proud of that. Yeah.
He yelled at my children. He yelled at my children at Fan Expo in Toronto.
What?
What the fuck?
Yeah, I know, right? They had one of my children said, because I at shows I give out stickers that say "Eat Farts" that have a beautiful eagle on them, and they say "Eat Farts." And one of my kids was like, "Hey, can we just give some of these to people?" And I thought they meant, can they go into the crowd and give some to people? And I gave them a couple hundred stickers.
Oh, God.
And what they did was they started giving them to celebrities. And the best story I heard was Michael Rooker, who they ran up to his table and left him an "Eat Fart" sticker on his table, and then tried to run away. And they were like, and Rooker was like, no, hey kid, hey kid, come back. And he's like, can I have more of these? And God bless you, Michael Rooker.
Doing that too.
But meanwhile, William Shatner yelled at them for leaving a vulgar sticker on his table. So,
That's barely vulgar.
And Right? And the thing was, like, though, they came back to me and they were like, Dad, you wouldn't believe it. This guy yelled at us. It's this guy from Star Trek. I was like, was it William Shatner? And they're like, yeah. How did you know? I was like, because the man has no sense of humor. It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yep.
I will say that I probably send someone a Swear Trek GIF at least once a day.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. I feel like this is the work that will, like, outlive me.
Well, it's either going to be that
it's never your serious work.
No. Although I think your bird guide might last longer than Swear Trek. I don't know.
Yeah. 6 years of daily comics. That's a lot of years.
That is. I love it though.
I like how you constantly get people on Instagram who think it's a real bird account.
Yeah.
It's very strange. I think people, I talk a lot about expectation failure when I'm talking about, like, people who are angry on the internet, and or people who are angry at, like, a TV show or a movie. Like, you see it in Star Trek fandom all the time. Like, people who are angry at Discovery when it wasn't the thing that they had expected that it would be. It's like, like, why do you have to, like, spend so much time expecting it to be something? Why can't you just watch it and enjoy it for what it is, you know? And or watch it and decide whether or not what it is something you like or don't like. Like, why do you have to, like, expect it to be a thing? And so people get really mad at me when in my comic strip I don't make jokes that are specifically about kinds of birds and the specific personality, quote unquote, personality traits of those birds. It's like, that's a joke for a very narrow segment of people. Like, those are jokes for people who know a lot about birds. And one of the things about Effin birds, like, Effin birds and Swear Trek are the same joke. Essentially, you take something that feels wrong with curse words, and then you give it curse words, and you make it funnier in that way. But also, I spent a lot of time, like, exercising all of my personal demons and whatever, you know, horrible frustration I've had. And like, it's funny in Swear Trek, if you know enough about Star Trek to understand the character personalities, because I work really hard on that part of the joke. Yeah. And so the thing is, that is an audience limiting factor of Swear Trek. It is hard to appreciate Swear Trek if you don't already appreciate Star Trek. And particularly, one of the things that I found was that if I was doing stuff with Enterprise, people would get upset about it because they didn't watch it or they didn't know it as much, and they're like, oh, I don't like the Enterprise ones as much because they're not as funny. It's like, well, it's just because you don't know Enterprise or whatever. So, like, when I was doing my, like, how do I do this again, but in a way that, you know, has more universal appeal, it was like, oh yes, let's not limit the audience by needing them to bring information with them, you know, to the comic. And so, yeah, I get people who are really upset that I don't do that with Effin birds. And my 1-star Amazon reviews are just a thing of beauty. I love to go to my reviews filtered by 1 star and then filtered by most helpful, because I've asked people online if they find a particularly hilarious 1-star review, vote it helpful. Because I want those killjoys up at the top of the 1-star reviews, because I really want to, like, when it says, like, most helpful negative review, and it says, what an education reading this book to your children. It's like, who told you should do that, Ginger? It's like, it says eat farts on the cover. Like, what were you thinking? Like, why did you think it was going to be educational? It does not say educational on it anywhere. But anyways, you know, expectation failure. Yes.
Yeah. That's on a serious note to that. That's one of the things that I learned early on when you write reviews of history books. You cannot criticize the person for having not written the book that you would have written. Take it for what it is. Yeah. So he dressed like Pike for Halloween. And I love how they are trying to, how Boimler and Manor are trying to talk around the fact that they know what happens to Pike in the future. And he's like, no, I know, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. But then I love Mariner doing the thing where she tries to describe with her hands the box that he ends up with. Because the thing is, he doesn't know that part.
Well, he saw
He thinks I think he thinks he's going to die. Doesn't he think he's going to die? Like, I don't think he thinks he survives.
Maybe so. I know, because he's confronted with, in the episode with the crystal, he is confronted with Pike in a box, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. No, he knows about the...
But maybe he's extrapolated that into not surviving beyond that, which is possible.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean
But
to
I
interrupt
just
you,
love
but
her describing the box with her hands.
Yeah.
No, that's
You know
cool. I
about
just
this?
love that she's like, you mean you know about the thing and the thing? Yeah, it's really great. That's, again, a beautiful piece of physical acting.
Yeah.
What I love about this is, like, a month or so ago, somebody made a meme that was going around on Twitter. It was some production stills from, I think, even this scene. And it was Pike saying, I already know about my future. He's like, yeah, you know everything about your future? I know everything. And Boimler says, even the beep beep chair? And then Pike responds, especially the beep beep chair. And I'm just like, they basically did that, which is amazing.
That was in,
Even
yeah.
the beep beep chair? Oh, man.
That was in, or at least it's been used in the Star Trek shitposting group on Facebook. It's been, they've taken some of the Bashir and Garrick and redone it with that.
Yeah, it's a riff on the Bashir and Garrick meme. Yeah.
Right, of course.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Like, honestly, I find like 80% of what goes viral in Star Trek shitposting done to death and not actually all that funny, but that other 20% is hilarious.
Yes, it's what keeps you there, you know? It's great.
Yep. They can't all be winners, you know? You gotta-
Every time somebody announces they're leaving the group and they turn that into a meme, it's good for a little while.
I'm over that so much.
I think it depends on who does it and how they do it, but yeah. I don't know why anybody does it anymore.
There's a few, every once in a while, there's a few quotes that stay with it that are funny. Like, I will always remember the guy that called them woke ass wagons as he left, because then that became the thing that they put in every meme.
That's
woke ass wagons. Yeah, I like that.
That's an interesting turn of phrase. Okay. So he knows about the beep beep chair, and we find out that Pike's father died relatively young. I don't think we know exactly how old Pike is, but he's not hitting the elder years of being able to live as long as you can in the future. So
I'd say older than 30, younger than 60.
I think that's about. I would put him early 50s. Would be my guess. Probably about the same as Anson Mount.
With that hair.
Yeah.
I don't know. How old are you, Aaron?
I am 48.
Okay, then he could be in his 40s, because you got the Pike hair going on.
Right. I do think that he's a little old to be dating Melanie Scrofano. I gotta say that. But, you know.
How old is
that's
she?
TV relationships.
Yeah.
She's late 20s, isn't she? I don't know, actually.
I that had never even occurred to me.
Someone's got to Google
I
that.
would have assumed 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
that should
she's
be.
41 years old.
Really?
Nice.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's not the worst. Well, then maybe they're fine. Well, how old is he?
I'm looking that up now.
Anson Mount's, I think, like 52,
frantically
53.
Googling Anson Mount.
He is exactly 50, actually.
Okay.
So
9 years
he's a
is
decade
No,
not
older
that's
an
than
not.
issue.
yeah, I guess.
It's when, though. The 9 years between 41 and 50 are very different than the
Right.
9 years
Yeah.
between, like, 21 and 30.
Or
All right, I take
20
that.
and 11.
Well, I
but,
was
you
trying
know.
to keep it not disgusting. But,
Fair.
yeah.
Well, I would say, I mean, not 9 years. She's well inside the half your age plus 7, I would imagine.
Half your age plus 7? Is that a rule from something that I'm not getting? A reference?
I don't know where it originally came from, but it's a thing that people say is like, it's what acceptable for an age gap is half the age of the older person plus 7.
Okay.
Which in his case would be 32, so she's fine.
Yeah, that would work.
Obviously, that means larger and larger gaps the older you get, so I'm not sure how well it works, like, once you're, like,
Yeah,
in your 30s, but...
Doesn't work for me because then that's like 31. I was like, no, that seems wrong.
Well, thankfully, we're not living in the ancient world where marrying
I mean,
teenagers.
it's not saying that you have to date a 31-year-old, it's saying you could.
Hugh Hefner
I guess
broke
I
that
walked
rule
into
lots
that.
of times.
Yeah, he did.
Anyway.
Who did?
And
Hugh Hefner?
Hugh
Hugh Hefner? Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and look at how that worked
Yeah,
out
he was
for
fine.
him.
Right. So, Pike's father died relatively young. They had a bad relationship. Apparently, this is a requirement for Starfleet captains, except for Sisko, that their parents, you have a bad relationship with your father. Well, and
Apparently.
And Janeway had a good relationship with her father.
Yeah, I was going to say, Janeway had a good relationship with her father.
Okay, so half of them, then. Less than half.
No, Archer had a good relationship with his father.
I think it's about
maybe
which
I'm just
showrunners had difficult relationships with their fathers. Yep.
There you go.
Got to write what you know, and you don't know the space part, so you know the relationships part.
So we're finding all about Akiva Goldsman's relationship with his father.
And
ooh, interesting. I didn't think that it would be Akiva Goldsman. Yeah.
He is the showrunner for Strange New Worlds, so I'm saying that.
So does that mean, what, Michael Pillar's relationship with his father was bad because Picard's and Riker's were? Well, Riker's was bad before Pillar was involved. Yeah. You started to say.
Well, we can't ask Pillar, but we can ask Akiva Goldsman.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Probably not. You know what, though? If he's at an event, that's something you can ask now that the strike is going on. You don't have to.
I would feel real awkward asking if he has a good relationship with his father or not.
I would too.
But, you know,
I'm not saying you should. I'm saying it's a topic that you could broach because you can't talk about other stuff.
No. So here's the thing. I'm at a lot of Comic-Cons. Like, I appear at a lot of Comic-Cons, and I ask a lot of awkward Star Trek questions of Star Trek people. It's really great.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
I did ask Jonathan Frakes if he would help me give a candle that says "Ghost Fucker" to Gates McFadden, and he said yes. He's a very nice man.
He would, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, she would find that
She
hilarious.
would.
Yes.
Actually, better yet, a bong that's a candle holder, because that would mix into the Blazing Bev. Because she's talked about the Blazing Bev thing.
She also loves
the
Blazing Bev memes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. All right. So they figure out that they still do have a piece of heronium. I almost just said honorium. Heronium, and it's in the floor of the engine room. Which apparently, I love Pelia's line, "Don't take my floor, I'm using that." And then, of course,
Yes.
Spock says, "It would be illogical to assume you're the only one."
You were the only one. Yeah, that was such a good line. I actually really liked this resolution to their problem, being that there was like a historical thing that you could know from the future that also they knew in the past, and like that was really nice. That was like, oh, everybody does know the answer to this problem. You know, that was pretty great.
I was hoping for a moment that they had we would have an opportunity to see the museum again in some form, because they would have had the setup, what little bit of it set up, and then.
But that would have been filmed in California.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
That's true.
Yeah, because Strange New Worlds is shot up here. It's like shot right near my parents' house.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is also why I very much enjoy anytime that things are outside on Strange New Worlds, noticing local landmarks. My favorite being I talk about this all the time because it's the funniest thing from the first season when they went to the planet that had the advanced culture that had like collapsed in some way and was gone, and it was this ghost planet, and they had these weird structures
like
on the water.
Water treatment plant or something.
Yeah. Well, do you know what that is? That's Ontario Place. That is a theme park owned by the provincial government that went bankrupt.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a theme park that went out of business, and it is emblematic of like a certain kind of like government spending, and like it's a place you go to get tetanus, and when I saw them up on top of it, I was like, wow, that's the rusty part. Like, you don't want to touch anything up there. Like, you're gonna end up with like lockjaw. Like, don't like Anyways, it was really funny because they just basically added the big sphere that's there is the IMAX theater, the original IMAX theater. And so it was hilarious that there were 3 spheres photoshopped in there because it was just 2 more IMAX theaters added.
That's fantastic. I bet if you go over there now, there's parts of it that are safer than they were before because they had to shore them up.
Yeah,
maybe
shore them up for filming. Maybe. I think they're trying to sell it again. The hard part is IMAX ended up taking back the IMAX theater, and they use it for testing new technologies. And they also like run movies in there on like weekends. So if you want to see the good, the bad, and the ugly in IMAX, in an experimental format where they say, hey, this print wasn't explicitly prepared for IMAX. We did something to it to try to make it showable in IMAX. And at the end, we're going to ask you what you thought of it. And guess what? It looked amazing.
So
that
sounds
was
awesome,
pretty great.
Actually. Yeah.
It's kind of great. And then they also have a band shell there that is incredibly popular. It's one of the best live music venues in Ontario, and so they can't sell part of it, so they're kind of screwed. So they've got this entirely like just rusting away theme park, and then Strange New Worlds called it an alien planet and visited it. It was really great. Between that and then Kirk being downtown Toronto and thinking that it was Times Square in New York in the time travel episode
that was beautiful.
That was a great nod to how many different movies try to convince you that specific square is in fact Times Square. Between that and The Expanse was also shot in Toronto, and the UN headquarters for The Expanse is a classical music venue called Roy Thompson Hall, and so every time we go past Roy Thompson Hall, it's like, oh, it's the UN headquarters from The Expanse.
Nice. No, I can just imagine going to a concert and having somebody who's very drunk wandering off and getting tetanus.
I mean, that can happen at most concerts, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
Well, it's true. Yeah. It's true.
So once I realized we weren't going to go see the museum, because of course this episode was only 45 minutes long, because why wouldn't we have a 60-minute episode for this, right?
Hey, the musical episode is going to be 60 minutes long now, so we got that going for us.
Yeah, so we could have had another 15 minutes of Mariner and Boimler is what I'm saying, but that's
but I think it was the right length. Like, I think it left you wanting a little bit more, and that's how you want to do it.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought they were going to. I thought they were going to go pull the Scorch off the hull.
Oh yeah,
right.
But then we come up with this tube in engineering. So
I mean, they're lucky that happened to be made from heronium, and it wasn't like, I don't know, the cushion from Archer's chair or something.
And it wasn't some component. I guess it wouldn't be a component that was vital, because by that time you've gone past it, but integrated into a component that was vital. I thought that was pretty cool.
In a longer version of this episode, they would get there and it would 100% be a component that was not made of that material, and so they would have to go find a third solution.
Then they would have to go to the museum and take a whole plate or something.
Steal an old Enterprise.
Pull it out of mothballs.
We'd definitely get Star Trek 3 music if they did that.
Yeah. Also love that Spock has apparently gotten to know Mariner well enough that he understands why it's funny that she paid attention. That deadpan line, just was beautiful.
That was great.
Beautiful.
I want more of Spock explaining jokes.
Yeah. Right. And so they get everything together, and they get the heronium, and they go beam back down. Before they do that, Mariner explains to Una that no, it is not a pin-up poster. It's a recruitment poster, which is just so sweet and perfect with the connection with with Ed Asper per Aspera. It's just so good. And then apparently there's about 15 different takes of things that Jack Quaid said to in response to Live Long and Prosper, which I really, really hope we get on the Blu-ray. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'd like to see that gag reel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we don't get a gag reel for that, something's wrong.
A missed opportunity.
Definitely. And it's already a missed opportunity that they didn't have those posters ready to go. I don't understand that. I know we've beaten to death the idea that Paramount's marketing department does not know what they're doing, but oh my god.
We didn't get the Spock beanies a couple weeks ago. We didn't get the posters this week. These are all things that they could be making money off.
But instead, they have basketball shorts that cost $60 for some reason. I would really, really buy if they were $30. I'd buy them.
Popcorn bowls that also cost $60.
The popcorn bowl and the basketball shorts are the same price, $62.50.
Yep.
Why?
I'm okay with the concept of the popcorn bowl and the basketball shorts being the same price. Just, make it a reasonable price.
$31.25. Just, yeah. So we get back to the Cerritos, and we have the wonderful moment of numero una, the hottest first officer in Starfleet history, obviously just written in there
That's so good.
so that Jerry O'Connell could say that his wife was hot, and it's a nice little joke for people who know about it. If there's anybody left who doesn't know about that particular bit, particularly after his father.
I'm sure there are actually a lot.
But after his father was running around taking pictures of himself with posters of her, and he reposted it. Oh, that was so funny.
I very much enjoyed his tweets about that.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was good. And then we find out in true Lower Decks fashion, because Mariner really is a nice person and really does have. I was about to say she really does love Boimler. I don't want to say that as a romantic thing, but they definitely have a very close relationship.
Yeah.
I very much am not. Him. I am not a Mariner shipper.
Oh God, no.
It is a thing. There definitely are people who are, but no.
But she does things for the people she cares about in her life, and she knew that he wanted to go look at the portal, so she arranged for that. That was pretty good. Yeah, she's not all bad.
It definitely feels a lot like the time in season 1 when she paid the Ferengi to be shady and make it look like she was getting taken in for it so that he could come to the rescue.
Right.
I love that.
Right.
I love that. And then we go back, and Anson Mount had said that they did animated Pike, but we did not know that everyone was going to be animated, and that was beautiful.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was really cute. And I did like that they had now the legit version of the drink, because their Orion scientist friend gave them some of the booze that they needed.
Yeah.
That was a good, like a good quote unquote excuse for doing that animated sequence and having everybody feel a little weird about it. Like that was really quite adorable. I think they could have just done it without mentioning it at all, but like it made it,
No,
it made it cute.
It's perfect because it's an in-universe explanation for all the people.
Does this mean that
who are like Lower Decks isn't the same because it's animated,
Does this mean there's someone on the Cerritos drunk on that Orion stuff every single minute of every day?
That is the implication, and that is now canon. There you go.
And it's Mariner. Likely.
It's Mariner, yeah.
It's always Mariner.
It's the computer. The computer gets drunk.
Now I want to know what you have to drink to end up in Prodigy.
Yoo-hoo. Something childish. I don't know.
What's the slime from Nickelodeon?
There you go.
You gotta drink the Nickelodeon slime. That's how you get into,
Oh, no. Ecto Cooler.
Yes.
Oh,
yes. Because, when I was a child and had my...
Not that kids today would know what that is, but
I had a little Star Trek group with school, and we would get together and we would have Star Trek club meetings, and we would get the blue... the blue Kool-Aid or the blue High C, and then we'd have the Ecto Cooler, and my mom found these really funky jars to put them in, or vases to put it in, so it looked all, Star Trek-y. I can't remember what the green... No, the green was the... whatever it was that Data had. It's green, and Scotty. But...
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Ecto Cooler, man, I hadn't thought of that in a long time.
Man, now all I can think of is that scene in Star Trek 6 with Spock and Kim Cattrall, and they're drinking out of a vase.
Yeah.
That's just a vase. I've seen that in a store. Like, I know, like, Odo living in a bread maker. Sure, I buy that, because, like, you painted it silver and you put some buttons on it. It's fine. It's a technology thing. But, like, drinking out of a vase? Come on, guys.
It works. It works. What was I? Oh, right. So just I don't know anybody else that plays the Lower Decks mobile game. Like, literally people that I actually know. But I'm sure some of our listeners do. And all of these Strange New World characters are going to be available on the Lower Decks game for the next month in series. So they're going to have,
nice.
like, I think Spock's the first one, and then it goes from, I think Pike's the last one. But it's a fun game. I highly recommend it. It is not one that you have to spend... I mean, you can spend money on, but it's not one that you can... Like, you have to spend money on in order to, quote-unquote, win. Yeah. So, I love it. I play it too much, so...
I had a couple of years where I got heavily into Trexels, and I'm glad that I'm no longer in that.
I got super into Star Trek Timelines for a little bit, but then I started actually paying money, and I'm like, nope, I'm done.
Yep.
Yeah, I had that.
For me, Trexels, I was spending far too much time every day. Yeah, right. And Trexels, I was spending far too much time on it every day, and then they did an update that broke my ship, and I would have to start over again, and I was like, what a convenient reason for me to stop playing. It's like, that's it. I'm out.
Yep. Yeah, I'm really glad that these weren't around when I was in college, in high school, because I would have had to lock it away, or have somebody else lock it away for me, probably. Right. So, final thoughts on this, but also, do you think we will see more of this in the future? Or do you want this to stay a one-off? Would you want to see more of it? Do you think it would mess it up or any of that? Not necessarily on Strange New Worlds, but just in general.
Yeah. I think we're at an interesting time for it because we have more than one Trek project happening at a time right now that are in different eras. And so if you want to cross them over, it has to be with a magic portal or something like that, or the holodeck. Because, I'm trying to think of like previous crossovers. Even if you think of like Generations. Generations has a magic portal.
Yeah.
I mean, or whatever the thing was, this big string in space, whatever that stupid thing was.
Nexus ribbon.
The Nexus ribbon, that's it. Thank you for knowing too much about that terrible movie. And so, like, because okay. Anyways,
another conversation.
That's all. Yeah, it's a whole different conversation. I like that for this, they didn't have to Forrest Gump it. Like it wasn't like the Tribbles episode of Deep Space Nine. They could just like go to the other set, and actively do it. And so, I think that. While it's possible, sure, it's easy enough to do, and it's one of those where you can save budget on an episode by not having to make anything new. You're just going to the other show's production site. But like, I don't know if we need it. But I suspect we would see more of it because it was good.
Yeah. I think it just makes sense. I mean. If we get NCIS and Law and Order crossovers, we should get more Star Trek crossovers.
Yeah. You know what I would like to see? And I pitched this to a Star Trek person at SDCC, and they were visibly upset when I pitched it. What? And then they came back later and told me that they had told it to some other people, and the other people thought it was a good idea. And that made me laugh really hard because I was trying to come up with the worst Star Trek pitch that I could come up with, which was a different Paramount Plus crossover. The show was called Tiberius, and it was set, a couple hundred years ago in the time of Kirk's great-great-great-great-grandfather, Tiberius Kirk.
Oh, this is a Yellowstone crossover?
Yes, it was a Yellowstone prequel crossover with Kirk's great-great-grandparents.
That is not a terrible idea, actually.
I love it.
Yeah. It made this one gentleman look very upset when I pitched it. And then I was like, Taylor Sheridan has time to do that, right? He's not doing it. He's not a busy man. He can do this. He can take on one more show. What's one more show when he's already producing 7 shows for your network?
See.
Yeah. No. I mean. Yeah. I'm or a 23rd century Yellowstone sequel.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Oh man, can you imagine Kevin Costner in a Star Trek?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, him and Dwight Schultz and the other two Republican Star Trek actors can go talk about being Republican.
John Voight.
Yeah.
John Voight.
Yeah.
Oh.
John Voight's another one. Jim Caviezel.
Oh, well, I was thinking, particularly people who've been on Trek, but yeah.
Listen,
sorry, I just named
I know. I'm like, what are you talking about? Jim
Republican.
Caviezel wasn't in Trek.
I mean,
Kelsey Grammer though has been on Trek and is a Republican actor.
yeah, Kelsey Grammer. So can we get a where's the Frasier reboot coming from? Is it coming from Paramount Plus? Because if it is, let's do a Frasier Star Trek crossover. Come on, we can do this.
I don't think it is.
I think it is Paramount Plus because I think I saw an ad for that they have all of Frasier now.
Great, I'm starting an email. I'm starting an email right now about the Frasier Star Trek Strange New Worlds crossover.
I mean, no, that just makes sense because that's why he was in an episode of TNG because they filmed that on the Paramount lot.
Really? Oh my God, that's so great.
And then of
is
course
beautiful.
you have
that is extra beautiful.
You have Spiner, and you have Spiner was on Cheers. And actually,
Night Court.
That crossed over to... It wasn't the same character on Night Court. But...
Rebooted Night Court. Yes. Rebooted Night Court Star Trek crossover. Let's go. Time travel episode.
But the rebooted Night Court is NBC, isn't it?
But
I'm sure they can make it work.
I haven't seen all of the rebooted Night Court season, but I'm really hoping because I think they did get renewed. I hope we see Spiner. I hope they bring him in for one of those bits with the country guy. You know, it's just, please. It would be so cool. Anyway. Well, I love the idea of doing this, of seeing this more, but I hope they don't run it into the ground. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's like you know, the hijinks episode. It was really good the first time. It was also really good this time. I'm a little worried that we're going to have a hijinks episode every season.
Well, we now...
Until it runs out of gas.
Yeah. We have two... We have another opportunity for hijinks, because we could have a hijinks episode that isn't a Vulcan hijinks episode. You could bring in Mariner and Boimler or something like that. So, different types of hijinks episodes.
You know what
No.
Thinking about it now, I really want to see Pike reacting to Boimler showing up a second time. Like, you know what? That's like...
Why are you here again?
Something horrible... transporter malfunction, something, and who beams in but Boimler, and just Pike's reaction to that. There are 6 ways to take that, and they're all funny. So, yeah, I want to see it again.
Or Pike shows up on Lower Decks.
Yeah.
Oh, and he has to deal with their like. There's got to be some reason that he has to pretend to be an ensign and be stuck down there with them.
Yes.
I love it.
That's the way to play it.
Oh, that's beautiful. I hadn't even thought about that aspect of how of seeing that and how Pike's reaction and like, oh, you're here again. Oh, damn! Now they have to do it. No. That's yeah.
Now they have to do it.
Yeah, that's good. I wonder. You think Pike's still alive? On
in the
Very Wicked
24th
Time
century?
Leaps 21st Century, yeah.
Oh, on Talos, what's it called? Oh no! Can they please go see the Buttheads and meet Wheelie Pike? Oh my God, that would be great. Yeah.
I mean, he might be. I mean, McCoy's still alive. So...
Well, I assume the Telosians. I mean, if they can artificially make you think that you're living out this other life, I imagine they can just hook your body up to something and do that forever. You know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but your body would still, age.
Yeah, but technology, they can replicate organs. So if Starfleet can do it, then the Telosians certainly can. That'd be maybe weird though.
Yeah, that could be interesting. Yeah.
He's still alive. I feel it. He's still alive.
That's what I'm thinking too. I never considered it, but I'm like, he could be. He actually could be.
That could be an interesting way to do it. They have an episode where they're going through various Telosian fantasies with Pike.
Or they get stuck.
Oh my God! And
yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, if they're going through various Telosian fantasies with Pike, obviously Anson Mount has to just be extremely dismissive of all of them because he's seen them all before.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. But I spent 10 years in this one. It's all right. Yeah.
And you have to go back to the Orion Dancing Girls and Tendi being really mad about it.
Yes,
Yes!
absolutely, 100%.
And maybe pulling one of them aside and going, you don't have to live like this. I'm an officer in Starfleet.
You don't have to live
I'm a doctor, a nurse.
Oh my God, it writes
Yes, it
itself.
does.
Yeah, that's really good.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We're just a fantasy. Like having them explain to her that they're just imaginary and her getting really upset at whoever's imagination this is. Yeah.
I love it.
We don't really have agency. That's like, yeah.
Oh, I love it. All right.
That's good.
This is a good place to end it.
There you go. Definitively must do more. Yep.
All right. Well, anything else about this episode we want to say before signing off here?
I think I'm good.
It was good. I liked it.
It was excellent. If you have to get something serious out of it, I think this is just nostalgia is not reality, and what happened in the past not always. What happened in the past can be romanticized to being better than the present, and a lot of people try to live there and realize they can't, like Weimler. So, because I have to.
Yep. And I like that he was going to explain it with a limerick, and then they told him not to, and he
forget
didn't.
about that. Yeah. Again, we need the outtakes.
I hope somebody did actually write the limerick.
I hope so.
Yeah, I need to hear the limerick. Yeah.
So we automatically.
Although now the limerick, I was going to say now the limerick in my mind is considerably better than whatever could possibly be the real limerick. Yeah. Like I've built it up so much. It's a great limerick that I've never heard.
It works well. When you get you can.
There once was a lady
do
from
the
Venus.
swear trek with it.
Yep.
It's perfect. Yeah. Right. So, speaking of swear trek, thank you so much for joining us, Aaron. This has been a lot of fun.
Hey, my pleasure.
Listeners know they can find you with Swear Trek and Effin Birds. Anywhere else they can find you online? And do you want to, tell us about any special upcoming work? Maybe give us a little scoop here for something.
Yeah, I'm currently on tour, and so if you go to effinbirds.com, there's a thing that says Meet the Author, and you can click it. You can see all the places where I'm going to be. When does this episode run?
Tuesday.
This one comes out on Tuesday, yeah.
Great. So day after tomorrow for you listeners who are listening on the first day, I will be at Newbury Comics in Boston. I'm doing Fan Expo Boston this coming weekend. The weekend right after that, August 10th to 13th, I'm at Fan Expo Chicago. August 24th to 27th, I'm at Fan Expo Canada in Toronto. September 1st to 4th, I'm at Dragon Con in Atlanta. And then also in September, I'm at Ottawa Comic Con and Edmonton Expo. I do a lot of shows. I'm doing a lot of shows. Yeah. You should come see me at a show. I do a live panel at all of them called Bootleg Safari, where me and another guest each look at 3 horrible things that we have brought to share from the 3 horrible knockoff items that we have brought to share with the other person. In Portland, my guest Kelly Gamont brought me a baby Yoda head that pukes toothpaste. Most disgusting thing I've seen in my life. And anyways, I made up this panel format so that I will always enjoy my own panels at shows.
Yes.
And I do every time. And you can actually see all of the panels so far this year at bootlegsafari.com, where the most recent one had a live duck on stage with me for the whole thing. You can actually hear him quacking the whole time. But we also take a deep dive into a Turkish Spider-Man film from the 70s, which is... the internet said it was really bad and no one should watch it, and I disagree. I thought it was amazing.
That's great. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Thank you. Yes. Oh, right.
My pleasure.
Okay. I have to think of something good here. Dad, where can people find you when you are not... I never think about these ahead of time. Right.
Where can people find you when you're not being sucked through a portal on a strange alien planet?
There you go. That was too obvious.
All right, well, you can find me on the website formerly known as Twitter at Tyrannicus. It's Tyranicus. You can also find me on Mastodon or Blue Sky. You can hear me on the podcast I do with my friend Carl called License to Spiel, licensed to the sea like the British or Canadians do it, where we talk about James Bond and James Bond adjacent things. Chrissie, where can people find you when you're not putting up a pin-up of a Starfleet first officer?
Ooh, which one?
I'll leave that up to you.
Well, there's the Frakes calendar. It's not quite a pin-up, but there is the Frakes calendar.
I do have the Frakes calendar, actually. Yeah.
The Brandon Bird one? Mm-hmm. Yeah, love that calendar.
So, right, so...
I especially love that it has a separate entire month of Frakes-uary at the end.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's good. I love it. Okay. Right. So in addition to here in Infinite Diversity, you can find me on History with the Szilagys here on the BQN, that twice-weekly short history podcast I do with my fellow historian husband, Jason. Also happy to chat about our shows in the BQN Collective on Facebook. And I'm also on the website formerly known as Twitter as the Goddess Livia, and that's TheGoddessLivia. And there I tweet about Star Trek history and leftist politics. And retweets.
You mean you X about Starfleet history? And
that's true. Excuse me. I just confused about it. And also a good deal of swear trek and effing birds too. So
appreciate it. I appreciate you.
It's good stuff.
Don't forget all our other great shows on BQN. And here's Amy Nelson to tell you all about them.
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, and Kelvin. Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. If you're lost in the Delta Quadrant, check out The Captain's Couch, a Star Trek Voyager podcast hosted by Jeremiah sitting on Janeway's Ready Room couch. Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out. Hosted by Mark, Matt, and Laz. Beam Aboard the Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG. Hosted by Amy, Joe, Rhea, and Kevin. History with the Szilagys, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissie and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissie and Thad. Test your Trek knowledge with Treksperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Union Federation, covering all things Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Star Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Spill the Tea with What's the Tea, Bev? A Trek current events and fan interview show hosted by Christos. And for our Patreon members, we have The Hive Mind, BQN's monthly roundtable discussion with hosts and listeners. It's Green, a cornucopia of topics hosted by Mark. And Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek, hosted by Amy. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
And thank you so much for tuning into Infinite Diversity. Thank you to Zach Tripp for the great theme music and Mark White for the wonderful show art. Please subscribe in your favorite podcast player, and don't forget to rate and review us there as well.
If you want to reach out, you can find the network on the website formerly known as Twitter at BQN Podcasts, or our show specifically at IDIC Podcast. You can also talk about any and all of the BQN podcasts in our Facebook group, the BQN Collective. And as far as I know, Facebook is staying Facebook.
Yeah.
When you next hear from us, we'll be talking about the next episode of Strange New Worlds, Under the Cloak of War. Until then, peace and long life.
And prepare yourself for a serious tonal shift.
Yeah, for real.
Which I shouldn't laugh at, but it is, so...
until your Killerbrand on Twitter tweeted about it. Or X'd about it, or whatever they're calling it these days.
I'm calling it tweeted. I'm calling it Twitter and tweeted. I kind of hope the people that invented that, I don't know if they would be able to, but that who created Twitter and who created this thing that has become so iconic that's just gotten ripped out from underneath them, I kind of hope they sue him over, like, something. I don't know what it would be. But I feel like they should be able to, because it was this thing, like, it's like,
you know what? They
taking
got their
the golden
money.
arches off of McDonald's.
Yeah.
Like, I know, but it's just...
I truly...
I want him gone.
You cannot fathom the idea of buying a company with one of the most recognizable brands in the world and then getting rid of that brand.
Yeah, well, I read a really great piece of analysis that was like, well, if he didn't buy it for the name and the brand, and he didn't buy it for the user base that he's actively driving away, and he didn't buy it for the code, which he's actively altering and changing, what was he buying?
He was mad about people making fun of him on the internet.
That's correct.
Yes. And financial, and you'll excuse me, financial dick waving, I think as well comes into that.
Yep. I made a comic that was specifically about Elon Musk buying Twitter back when he bought Twitter, and the comic said, "Try not to set your dick on fire." And it turns out, 6 months later, he did not take that advice.
Love it. That reminds me of a whole other thing that has nothing to do with this, but
because this has so much to do with the episode.
Well, no, I mean, I don't know. Do you have a heart out, Aaron, or are you? I mean, not that we're going to keep you for hours.
But, I'm good.
Okay,
I'm good.
Did you ever hear about the Arby's that had the urinals that were kicking back boiling hot water?
No.
I mean,
there was an Arby's that.
Yeah, I want to hear the story.
There's not much to it. I'll have to send you. I heard about it on a podcast called Face Jam.
So, like, when they flushed or whatever?
Mm-hmm. They flushed. It was hot water. And apparently someone burned themselves. And he sued. And he got money because of... So, when you said that, all I could think of was somebody working at that Arby's printing that out and sticking it up in the men's room.
Right. Of course.
That's all. Anyway. I understand it now.
So, like, that made me think of, like, 20 years ago when I still thought Family Guy was funny.
20 years ago, Family Guy had some funny moments. So
but there was a recurring joke whenever they would say like insult somebody or say something. There was like some guy with a Russian accent who would just pop in and like, haha, he's funny because he's true, and then like pop out. And I have no idea what it was referencing originally, but that's just what made me think of that.
It's Yakov Smirnoff.
I was about to say it's Yakov Smirnoff.
Okay. Yeah. See, I know Yakov Smirnoff. I know that in Soviet Russia we, blah, 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 but I didn't get to the other part.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's true. Yeah.
He'd say something very sad with the Soviet Russia thing, and then...
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I forget that Family Guy's still on. It's like, oh, why? Okay.
Yeah, it is still on. I don't know. I haven't watched it in forever because it just...
Somebody told me there was a really good episode of The Simpsons recently, and so I watched it. And guess what? It was really good.
Yeah, no, The
Simpsons is different.
Never got terrible. The thing, I remember reading an interesting paper on, like, not paper, but like someone who did an article about this, like, did some study on this, and the average person will say that The Simpsons jumped the shark around the time that they became an adult.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I think I
That's why the best Star Wars is the one that you were a child for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but the prequels are not the best Star Wars, and those were the ones that, like, the Phantom Menace came out when I was 13, so...
13 is arguably not a child.
Fair, yeah. Okay.
I was going to say...
I saw Return of the Jedi when I was 8 years old, and it is the best Star Wars. No talking me out of that.
That's why Next Gen is the best of the treks, too.
I mean, you're allowed to have your incorrect opinion. It's fine. I mean, yes, DS9 is my favorite Star Trek, and I saw that when I was a kid, so yeah. But anyway, yeah, no, I still watch The Simpsons, not like religiously or anything, but I definitely just still catch new episodes from time to time, and it feels more or less the same as it always has, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Family Guy, though, I'm not. I think it's a combination of it not being quite as fresh because it's been 20 years, and like the edgy humor is less edgy because it's been doing it for 20 years, and me not necessarily finding the edgy humor as funny as I did when I was a teenager.
Right.
Yeah, I think Family Guy you grow out of, perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah. Sort of like how South Park is also still on the air, but I don't watch that.
South Park went... But anyway. Matt Stone and Trey Parker took a hard right turn somewhere along the line, and that's when I quit watching it, so... whatever.
You know what? They make money making a thing that people like, and you know what? That's the dream.
More power to them. But
yeah, if we could make money doing this podcast, that'd be awesome.
We'd have to be a lot more professional, I think, or maybe not.
People are like, why don't you do more Swear Trek? Why do you spend all your time on the bird cartoons? Like, because the bird cartoon pays money. Like,
yeah,
Swear Trek by its definition cannot. You know.
Hey, I own an Everything's Fucked enamel pin. That made you like a couple bucks, right?
From the whole run.
Not really. I lost money on. Yeah, I lost money on every piece of merch I tried to do for Swear Trek.
Oh.
So you know.
Oh, well, that's a shame.
With the exception of the run of shirts through Cotton Bureau, because you can't possibly lose money on it because it's a crowd fund. But we never got past the place where I earned like $1 a shirt, so it was not. And none of it was good, and it's fine. It's fine because you know what? I did it because it was really funny, and I got a lot of good work out of it. And so, and then you know what I did? I stole a lot of jokes for myself, and I used them again in a job that does pay money. So you know, I'm allowed.
I mean, arguably, that's this Swear Trek and Effin Birds belong together. So, yeah, Swear Trek was first, right? Or was it Effin Birds?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so Swear Trek allowed Effin Birds to happen. Think of it that way. Birthed it or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Effin Birds was me solving what don't I like about making Swear Trek, what's hard about making Swear Trek, and why can't Swear Trek make me any money?
Yeah.
That was all of those things solved in one package. So it was very mercenary.
Love
it was like, how do I convert this into actually a living instead of just shit posting?
Boston Neelix walked so the birds could fly.
That's right.
There you go.
Oh, Boston.
Perfect.